in London. Eric's mom was never late, but after the last bell at Gavin Middle School has rung, Eric and his cousin Sarah was still waiting to be picked up. She probably working, Eric says. His mom was a river raft guide at the Great Smoky Mountain National Parks. Sometimes tourists showed up without warning, and she squeezed them into her schedule. Should I call my mom? Sa asked. No, it's okay, Eric says. Moms never leave me strange. Just then, an old green station wagon pulled up and screamed at a stop. A woman with our sunglasses on rhinestone on the frames waiting at the afternoon sunlight pocket. Head out, hop in, you two, she shouted. Aunt Gabriella. The cousins explained in night. They had not seen their Aunt Gabriella since she left the Amazon rainforest 6 months earlier. She was their mom's youngest and wider sister. She was always traveling, adventuring, and getting into trouble, and had explored much of the world on her trips. Sorry I'm late. I went to the engineering school first. Oops. I'm glad laughed as Eric and Sarah climbed in. Your mom is working, so it's just us this weekend, she said, waggling her eyes round at Eric. Eric smiled, but as Aunt Gara hit the glass and the car sped off, he looked out of the window and sighed. Weekend plans his mom would have to be paused again. After starting Sarah to soccer practice, Aunt Gabriella and Eric head home. His house felt different with her there, more alive. The radio was playing loudly, the windows were flying open, and even more, his lazy old dog screamed somehow. Should we bake brownies? She asked. Blow bubbles or brew a volcano? I'm too old for that stuff, Eric groaned as he snapped into the couch. Aunt Gabriella squeezed his shoulder. You know your mom would be here if she could. I know, Eric replied, but weekend was going to be so fun. Who said it won't be? Aunt Gabriella giant hands on her hips. In fact, I just had a brilliant idea. 10 minutes later, a car honked outside. Eric peeked out of the window. It was a taxi. They must have the wrong address, he says. But when he turned around, Aunt Gabriella was lugging suitcase toward the door. Grab your shoes or we miss our flight, she says. Our flight? Eric exclaimed. When did his aunt have time to plan a trip? He ran out of the door after her, a chain of sexual with just the ticket. Aunt Gabriella, the crowd climbing to the taxi to the airport, please, then to London. London, Eric scrambled into the taxi, too. London is a whole different country. Our good, exactly. Why? What about plane ticket? Hotel reservations, Eric asked, rubbing his arm through his hair. Oh, things will work out. They always do. The taxi pulled away. Are you sure this is okay for my mom? Eric instead. That's life, how a little adventure, Edgar replied. It was Eric's first time flight overseas, and the spectral view crossing the ocean took him breath away. I can't believe this is real, he whispered as the plane landed and the pilot welcomed them to London. First, the subway. In London, it's called a tube. Angra explained, breathing through a turnstile will tire girl and weak. Eric blanked. Had she ever read a ticket? The turnstile let him through too. Maybe Aunt Gabriella has prepared their face. He didn't have time to wonder. The train arrived. Everyone rushed aboard in the chaotic scramble. How somehow described the crowd, and Gabriella grabbed the last two seats at a few stops. Later, they reached a hotel near an electrical bellhop, grabbed their bags, and led them into a room without stopping at the front desk. Before Eric could catch his breath, they had disposed their luggage in the room and were parked outside of the street of London. What's the plan? He asked. Why don't we play in it by ear? And Gabriel guessed. They began with a leisurely stroll walk around the river Thames. Tower Bridge, with its steady tolls, trucks caught Eric's eyes. He stopped by the riverbank to admire it. A fancier lift, called a voice from below. Eric looked down and saw a man rowing in a boat. In a rowing boat with two life vests on the empty seats. It seemed too good to be true, but Eric was beginning to realize that traveling with Aunt Gabrielle leads all kinds of crazy contents. They hoverboard, and the man rode them up the Thames. Something about his face looked oddly familiar, but Eric couldn't place from where. Now, we're brief London Bridge, the boatman said. A short time later, he pointed. That's the Goldboat Theatre, Wing of William Shakespeare and his plays. As they passed by it, Eric stared at the Goldboat, famous of its association with Shakespeare's play. He remembered about reading about how the atrium was a circle that surrounded the statue, make it easier for people to see the show from all sides. The boatman continued narrating their trip, and there is Magilla Bridge, a bit modern for my taste, I must say. Eric and Aunt Gabriella hopped out at the first bridge. Westminster. The boatman tipped his hat. Suddenly, Eric recalled him. What's that? William Shakespeare's? Eric asked in the west. Oh, he's an old friend, Aunt Gabrielle replied with a crooked smile. Westminster Bridge was beautiful, but the real sight was Big Ben, a tall and improved building. The tower had a clock face on every side, keeping time for the center city. Can you believe it's still using the 1800s clockwork? And Grabber said. Suddenly, Eric had an idea. What as wild as any of Gabriel's? Can we climb it? He asked in excitement. I think that can be avoided. With a finger on her lips, Angela led Fred through a door at Big Ben base. They crept past the dog watchman, quiet as mice, up their 100 steps, and through another door. Eric was wretched. Above them hung 3 emerald bells and a dizzy wheel of letters, cogs, wheels, and warps. Then the clock struck 12. Eric felt fear of time suffer through him. From the top of his head down to his toes, the closest thing he could compare it was being caught in a cave with his mom during a thunderstorm. Mom would love this, he said as they described it. I imagine the world. I'll agree. We would be the more better this time, and Gala whispered. They were waiting with another tourist to enter Quadruple Palace. Don't want to upset the Prime Minister. Eric enjoyed the tour. The palace was beautiful. He liked learning about how parliaments operate in chambers like the House of Commons and how people began president like kings or queens. It was also interesting to remember that this modern city and country were ruled by a modern lords. After dinner in a small place tucked away in an alley that may or may not have been a restaurant, Eric and Aunt Gabrielle went back to the hotel. This whole city is incredible, but Big Ben was my favorite part, Eric admitted. Aunt Gabriella looked at him with a sparkle in her eyes just as the little woman wrapped in fur and expensive clothing got toward them. A scowling boy with about Eric's age traveled behind her. My son doesn't oblige the figure things, but perhaps you will, she said, turning the ticket in Eric's hand and marching off, the angry boy still in tow. Eric looked down, announced to find he was holding a tiny vision of the clock tower that shined just like the real one. The next morning, they rode a red double-decker bus around the city, taking photos from the top. When they had to catch their flight home, Eric couldn't believe that trip was already at an end. Once you've been bit by the travel bug, there's no going back, and Clara warning as they unpacked Eric's suitcase together late at night. So next time my mom has to work, can we take another trip? Can Sarah come? Eric asked. Before Aunt Clara could answer, in front the door slammed. Mom! Eric shouted and ran downstairs. Hey, buddy! His mom gave Eric a hug. What did you and Aunt Gaps get up to this weekend? You won't believe me. Eric began launching into a story of the trip. Just as he finished, Aunt Clara came rushing downstairs. I've got to go, she exclaimed, hugging them both. Thanks for looking after Eric. Sounds like you had a quiet adventure, Eric's mom said with a wrinkle. Anytime, Aunt Gabriella said. She hurried out the door. You don't believe me, Eric said, but his mom was already walking down the hall. It seemed you had a wonderful time, whatever you were doing, she said as she closed the bathroom door. Eric pulled the tiny clock tower out pocket just as it began to chime midnight. Goodbye.